So let's break down the Trump pressure campaign on Arizona officials. Joining me is Katie Hobbs, Arizona's Secretary of State. She's running for governor of that great state. Madam Secretary, welcome. Let's get your reaction off the top to the hearing that the Arizona House Speaker detailed that pressure campaign on him the way he did.
Well, I don't think I realized how involved the pressure campaign was. And obviously, Republican officials got different kinds of pressure than Democratic officials did. I didn't get calls from Giuliani or Trump or his allies, but I did have armed protesters surrounding my home. And that was a tactic that a lot of people experienced. And I think what's become so clear from all of this is just the level of coordination that is involved, not in just the leading up to January 6th and the Electoral College certification, but that's continuing. These attacks on America, these attacks on our democracy and the future of free and fair elections, which are on the ballot next November.
Yeah, it's interesting because despite that pressure, you had Rusty Bowers lay out, how Trump and his allies just really came after him to overturn the election. But then even after that, he says he'd still vote for Trump again in 2024. So from my perspective, that's a little bit nuts. I mean, how should we assess that? What does that say about all of this?
Well, I think Rusty Bowers is an honorable man, and he did the right thing in this situation under immense pressure. I think it is a sad commentary on the state of political affairs today that asking people to do the bare minimum, uphold their oath of office that they swore to the Constitution, is heroic. But that's where we are.
Yeah, it's an interesting space, and I think a lot of people are trying to still figure a lot of that out. You also had a situation where Rusty testified that Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs contacted him on January 6th to support decertifying the electors. What does that say to you that a member of the Arizona congressional delegation was pushing for this effort?
Well, I think it was clear from early on that both Congressman Biggs and Congressman Gosar were involved in this coordination. They were trying to cozy up to the former president and use their influence and their relationship with the speaker to try to change his mind on this issue. And thankfully, they weren't able to.
You've been also the subject of a lot of violence, threats to violence since the 2020 election. What does it say to you, or how did you take in listening to these officials recount the threats that they've received? How have you processed all of this?
Well, it's certainly been extremely trying, and really one of the most daunting things about being involved in elected office or politics today. I had armed protesters outside my home, as I mentioned. I've had state security detail a number of times. I have private security now, and nobody signs up for this. These people need to be held accountable, and I think as long as they're not, this kind of violence and this violent rhetoric is going to be the new norm in our political system. It's very unfortunate.
So you're making that run for governor, and I'm sure you feel really good about that, and things hopefully are going well for you. But your Republican opponent, or at least the leading Republican opponent, potentially Kari Lake, has called for you to be jailed. And said that she wouldn't have certified President Biden's victory in Arizona if she were governor. This isn't just a Democrat versus Republican race, is it? We're really kind of beyond the Rubicon when it comes to where we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a huge part of the reason I'm running for governor. As I mentioned before, democracy is on the ballot in 2022, and you're seeing that play out in races across the country with election deniers against democracy defenders, and Arizona might be the premier race in that situation. Kari Lake is making these claims with absolutely zero evidence. She's doing it to rile up her base. But what's really scary is that she has refused to say whether or not she'd certify the 2024 election. And we all know there is no legal basis for anyone to have not certified the 2020 election. So, this is going to be a tough fight. I need folks to join me at katiehobbs.org so that we can make sure I'm in a position to help continue to protect our democracy.
Well, Secretary Katie Hobbs, wish you well, and thank you very much for being with us this evening. Still ahead, the long journey some women now have to make in order to obtain an abortion.